Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Jamal Gumo, aka Gumball. Man, I hope you all had a great, safe, eventful weekend. Um, Good, eventful weekend. Um, I had a very quiet weekend, didn't really do much, but we're back. It is a Tuesday, no show yesterday, but we are back today. Lots to talk about, and oh, there he is. I was solo for the first few seconds, I guess. But hope you all had a good weekend, man. And I don't say too often. I don't say too often. Come on, get right with your boy, man. Hit that sub. Hey, if you watching this, bro, hit the sub button, bro. Get right with me, man. You know what I'm saying? Um, we're still growing. We still growing slowly but surely. And do me that favor, bro. Do me that favor. But I'm not by myself. As looks like he just woke up from his hibernation. Um, Kev, how's it going, man?
I'm going back to sleep.
Yeah, you look like you've been up since you look like you went to the gym, took a run, had a very eventful morning. Now you're ready to go.
I was actually up till like 2 watching a horror movie.
What movie?
I think you know what it is. It's
Huh?
it's called the Babadook.
I've never heard of that.
Look it up right now.
Huh?
Look it up right now.
The Babbitt. How do you even spell that?
So BABA and then
Uh huh.
DOO.
D Badook.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so Badook?
BABA.
Oh, Badok. A single mother plagued by the violent death of her husband battles with her son's fear of a monster lurking in the house, but soon discovers a sinister presence all around her. Dang, bro, you watch this by yourself?
I was watching with all three of my siblings.
Oh, dang. Yeah, you
It's
better than
crazy
me,
too,
bro.
cause after the movie ended, we were hearing like noises in the house. I'm like, bro, where's all this
Yep,
noise at?
see? Yeah, see? Nah, yeah, hey, keep that over there, bro. I don't want none of that. See, I ain't got no business with no monsters over here, bro.
Hey, if that keeps you away from my house, then hey, so be it.
Wow, that's crazy. That it's okay. I'll remember that, bro. Remember that there. But let's get into the show, man. Lots of stuff to talk about today. And as always, we start the show off the first segment of the day called something to shoot. First off, the Florida Panthers avoid NHL history by after kind of hauling at Edmonton Oilers. They were up. The Panthers were up 3-0. The Oilers have stormed back to tie the series at 3, force a game 7. Um, but the Panthers beat the Oilers last night in game 7 to become the first ever franchise to get the first ever Stanley Cup in franchise history for those Florida Panthers. Kev, I'm assuming that you didn't pay attention to any of the hockey or any, but it was a great series. I'll just kind of recap it for a little. It was a great series. I thought it was over after the first 3 games. Matthew Tkachuk looked really good. Um, and of course, as he's the best player on that Panthers team. And then again, just something flipped. Something flipped. Connor McDavid turned into the best player that he's been all year. There's a reason why he has 3 Hart trophies or 3 MVP trophies. He also won the Conn Smythe Award, which is the playoff MVP. Connor McDavid was phenomenal, especially in those 3 games in which they won to come back. But Panthers do end up coming out with the dub. And so congrats to the Florida Panthers, their first ever Stanley Cup champion. A little bit more hockey news. I want to get this off my chest because I've been waiting to get this off my chest. Now, former Arizona Coyote owner Alex Morello walks away from the team after the land auction they were trying to win in order to build a new arena for the Coyotes. Alex Morello, as a human being, he can be whatever he is. As an owner, get out, like good riddance, like leave, because he was so clueless in what he was going. Like we've had some bad owners. We've had Robert Sarver. We've had, we currently have Michael Bidwell. I think he's a terrible owner. I think he needs to go for the Cardinals. Neither of them have ran their franchise out of the city, out of the state. Alex Morelos is the only one that actually got to do that. So he ran the Coyotes out of Arizona. Now, obviously, now in Utah, Salt Lake City. But he finally walks away, calls it quits in terms of being the owner for the Coyotes. Thank God. I was at that press conference with him and Gary Bettman. Just watching him, looking at him, you can tell he didn't know what he was talking about. He looked clueless. He just didn't look like he knew what he was talking about. So thank goodness he's gone. Hopefully they can bring hockey back to the Valley. But after all these past few years, who knows? But to some basketball news, Scotty Barnes, Toronto Raptors young star, signs a 5-year, $270 million extension with the Raptors that will make him the highest paid Toronto Raptor ever. Will he be, Kev, I want to ask you, will he be worth that huge deal when it comes to a close?
I mean, you gotta look at it from what they have. He's arguably their best player. After giving up Pascal, Kawhi leaving, OG gone, by default he's their best player. Because if you look at who they have on their team behind Scotty, there's only two guys that you can name on top of your head that could be in the conversation, but not even close. Is RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley. With Emmanuel Quickley also entering free agency if he doesn't accept his option. So I think that was a good extension for the Raptors getting back Scotty Barnes. Do I think he deserves that much money? I'm not too sure. Maybe you could have paid him for like 5 years, $240 million or something like that, around that price, especially with someone that hasn't really shown you that he can carry a team. Getting paid that much as a superstar, for me, I think he's a bit overpaid, but he could be their best player moving forward. And he's only 23, 24, so
he's very young.
Yeah. So you have him all the way until he reaches his prime. So I think it's a good deal for him. It's a good deal for the Raptors. I maybe think it's just a bit overpaid, but I say it's pretty solid.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. I think that's about $45 million a year. I think he's a very good player. He has been I believe he's been an All-Star. Has he been an All-Star? I'm not too sure about that. Actually,
he's won Rookie of the Year. I know.
Yeah, he's a Rookie of the Year. I think he's been an All-Star. I could be wrong about that, but he's been a very good player. He's been a very good player for them. Now, if you're making $45 million a year, you got to make sure your team is in contention year in and year out. At the very least, for a playoff spot. Now, obviously, he got hurt. He broke his hand, I believe, or something with his hand last year, out for the season. But again, while he's been on the court, he's been good. Cannot shoot the three ball very well. That's one thing where he struggles with. He's a very good defender, can get to the rim. He can facilitate a little bit. So he's very good, and he's shown signs of it. But again, if you're going to be getting paid $45 million a year, you got to be able to put your team in contention, and again, at least for the playoff spot. But you'd really like to be contending in the East. To either get out of the East and go to the finals or win a championship. The Cleveland Cavaliers filled their empty head coach role. They go out. They hire former Brooklyn Nets head coach and now most recently Warriors assistant coach. Kenny Atkinson. Kev, as a Cavs fan, do you like this signing?
I honestly do. I think it brings in a new face, a new type of personality when it comes to coaching with Kenny. A lot of people have seen it with JB Bickerstaff, the former coach. He's a great coach for a rebuilding franchise where you want to rebuild and you want to become a better team. But with JB, I've noticed he's the coach where after you rebuild your team and you have a decent team, a good quality team, he doesn't take you for much after that. So I think big props to him for bringing us the team that we have right now. but I think it was a good choice to move on from him and bring in someone that could take this team a little more higher than what JB was offering.
Yeah, you know, when you kind of talk about JB Bickerstaff like that, it reminds me of Monty Williams, right? The Suns were winning 19, 20 games, 21 games a year, and then Monty Williams came around. They get to the bubble, they go 8-0 in the bubble, and then they go to the NBA Finals, and then they have all the success, but couldn't get them over the hump. JB Bickerstaff, it's a lot of the same thing. He was able to rebuild the Cavs, really get them to somewhat contention. Never really able to get over that semi conference finals hump. But he did a very good job bringing this team back, and then so that now they need somebody to push once again push them over that next hill and get them to the finals and possibly win an NBA championship. Donovan Mitchell is also in contract talks. Do you want him back, or do you think he should go out and trade for another piece?
I honestly think if we bring him back, then for sure Garland is gone because they've already made it pretty obvious that if Mitchell comes back, Garland's gone, or if Garland comes back, Mitchell's gone. Because that backcourt pair has been working out. So I feel like for Garland, if he's gone, if the Lakers want to make a move for Darius Garland, in my opinion, I would take a Rui Hachimura for the Cavs. I mean, I feel like he'd be a good fit for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, they do need a three. They do need three. I think Rui would bring. He would be a very good addition, very very good addition to that Cavs team. Bringing the size, bringing the defense, and bringing the shooting. He's not the best 3-point shooter, but bringing the scoring ability that Rui Hachimura brings with him. What he's been able to do in Washington and now LA. I think he'd be a very good addition. And Donovan Mitchell's going to want a lot of money. So I ask you, is Donovan Mitchell, can he be the number one guy? Because I don't know if you're going to be able to go out and get somebody better than Donovan Mitchell to pair Donovan Mitchell with. So can Donovan Mitchell be that number one guy on an NBA championship team?
I mean, we haven't seen much of it just yet on a championship team. But we all remember that stretch when they went 18-1 or 17-1 with Garland and with Evan Mobley out. And in that stretch, he was averaging like 30 points per game. I mean, it was conversations about him and Book being the top two best shooting guards in the league before Anthony Edwards came into the picture. Just blossoming his game. And then Jared Allen too. I mean, he was a good co-star with Donovan Mitchell, averaging 18 points and 13 rebounds. I mean, he looked like a very dominant center out there too. So I mean, we've seen strides of what Mitchell can do as the lead man. And then once Garland came back into the picture, it kind of diminished his role a bit. Kind of brought him back down to earth. And we saw in the playoffs. I mean, when you have two very ball dominant guards and two very undersized guards, I mean, it's going to be hard for offense to flow and for defense to even be good. Because I mean, yes, we have a good defensive front court, but that back court with Mitchell and Garland wasn't good defensively. So I think if we bring back Mitchell, I can honestly see him playing at the one and probably bringing another shooting guard that can be a 3-and-D.
With that, I've told you before. He played very well in these playoffs before he got hurt. I will absolutely give him credit for that, especially in the first inning against Orlando. But I think if you put him at the one, again, personally, I've seen it firsthand. If you put him at the one, he will not be nearly as successful. At least the team won't, because that means that's more load on Donovan Mitchell, with him having to facilitate and score and trying to balance that out. So I think if you're going to go get a one, I think you should go get a true one, a true point guard. Darius Garland was very good at that and has been very good at that. But again, as you said before, they haven't exactly meshed as well as the Cavs would like them to. So I don't know. Maybe they break these two up. Minnesota Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch has been extended. Obviously, he did a great job this year leading the Minnesota Timberwolves to a 3 seed, the highest seed they've been in a long time, and leading them to the Western Conference Finals. But within the extension, can he lead the Timberwolves to a championship?
I think it was a good, very smart extension for the Timberwolves because, I mean, if you saw from what he did this year and the previous years, I mean, no one really had the Timberwolves as a team that would make it to the Western Conference Finals going into the season. I mean, the talks were about Nuggets, Clippers, and Suns, Lakers, and all those teams. But no one really saw Thunder and Timberwolves, and those two teams, surprised a lot of people. I mean, and I feel like the Timberwolves, it was a good re-signing for them. Extending Chris Finch because, in my opinion, he should be up there as one of the top coaches in the NBA. I think it was good. It was a good, smart signing for them. Do I think they make it back to the Western Conference Finals and championship, and go to the finals? I say yes. I honestly think they're just missing maybe one key player away from a championship team. Because I mean, they have the players on that team. I mean, Anthony Edwards can be that number one star. We've seen it before. Jaden McDaniels is an excellent two-way player who I think should be in more talks about being one of the best wing defenders in the NBA. Sorry. And I mean that team is just overall it's very well balanced. It has a lot of depth. I think they're just missing that second or third superstar that can bring them over the hump.
Yeah, the Minnesota Timberwolves got to the Western Conference Finals. I don't want to say solely, but the biggest reason they got to conference finals was because of their defense and how good their defense has been and was the entire year. They were the number one defense in all of the NBA. And you saw that carry into the playoffs, obviously by sweeping the Suns, who had Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, by beating who did they beat in the second
Defending
round?
champs.
Yeah, the defending champs in 7 games. Jokic and obviously Jamal Murray and that team, and how well they played last year. They came in and not shut them down, but beat them in 7 games on their home floor. And then losing to the Mavericks, but again, that I think they just worn out after that. And we talked about it as soon as they lost. Anthony Edwards said that they didn't train very well. That's on them. You go into a season training to go win a championship. So if you don't train enough, that falls solely on you. But I think they would have beat the Mavericks if they had trained properly, because of how good their defense is and how well I don't want to say diverse, but various that team is, with the ability to shoot and the ability to play defense and the ability to score and facilitate. You have somebody for each of those responsibilities. And so that's why they made it so far and we're so successful this season. And so Chris Finch did a phenomenal job, an amazing job this year. So an extension well-deserved. But will they get to the finals? I don't know. The West is tough, man. The West is tough. Lastly, this is interesting. This came down this morning. Per Jake Fisher, the Lakers are looking to trade their first-round pick. The Lakers have the 17th overall pick and the 55th overall pick in the second round. They're looking to trade that 17th overall pick. Is that the right move, or should they stay at that pick and try and get somebody who can help them right away and possibly in the future?
I'll be honest, and I don't know how you feel about it, but this draft class doesn't look like the strongest draft class.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, if you can probably land Zach Edey at the 17th pick, I would say probably draft him, because for me, in my opinion, I think he's a player that can help you now, but I don't see him progressing much from that point on, because I feel like his floor is very high, but his ceiling is low. Because of what we saw what he did at Purdue. I mean, he's pretty much like almost like another Yao Ming. I wouldn't say he's gonna be as good as Yao Ming because we haven't seen much of it yet, but he kind of plays kind of like that, and I feel like they can bring him in, start him at the 5, slide Edey back to the 4. It's gonna hurt their spacing, but it's gonna prevent Edey from getting hurt, as opposed to playing at the 5, being more physical up there. So if they can draft someone like him that can help them out, I say that'll be beneficial. But if you want to look to trade this big away for another star, another role player that could be that third scoring option or the fourth scoring option, depending on Austin Reeves as a third option. But if you can bring in that fourth guy, I feel like they should go for it, especially when you only have a 2-year window left with AD and LeBron.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's interesting. I think it's tough to say what they should do. I think with that 55th pick, I think they're going to draft Bronny. I think that's kind of just set in stone. But with that first round pick, it's tough, man. It really depends on who's available. Zach Edey is very interesting. To put, obviously to play, like you said, to put him at the 5 and slide AD back to the 4. That's a very interesting move. But we're gonna see, and we're gonna get more into it here a little bit later in the show with the NBA draft coming up tomorrow. So we'll definitely talk about that.
Is it tomorrow? Or is
It's
it
just
Thursday?
first round is tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the first round is tomorrow, and then the second round is Thursday. I'm pretty sure. May have to double check that, but yeah, man, it's gonna be interesting. But that wraps up something to chew on as we go over every day the top stories of the day, and that wraps up for today. Next up, this is something very interesting. Definitely wanted to react to with you. JJ Redick had his introductory press conference yesterday to the Lakers head coaching job, and he had some pretty interesting things to say. I'll start off with this one. Saying with him reacting to somebody asked him, so how are you going to deal with LeBron and Anthony Davis?
He didn't provide any advice. LeBron and I did.
Wrong one. This one.
With any player, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Austin Reeves, any player on the roster, I can have a vision for how I want to use them, but there has to be buy-in and collaboration.
So I want to specifically react to that last part of that statement. We've talked about it multiple times, even when Shams first put it out that the Lakers were interested in JJ Redick, to after Dan Hurley and that whole situation, and then when he got hired. I've said the same thing. We all know JJ Redick is a basketball head. He knows so much about the sport of basketball and the X's and O's. But when you mention that buy-in, will you be able to get LeBron to buy in? Will you be able to get Anthony Davis to buy in? And then even it might be even harder to get the younger guys to buy in, get Rui to buy in, get AR to buy in. And the only reason why I say that is because they might be looking at you saying, "Oh, the only reason why you're here is because LeBron got you here." They may be looking at him like that. So like, okay, what am I gonna listen to you for if LeBron is still calling the shots? So are you gonna be able to get those guys to buy into whatever system you're trying to get them to buy into, offensively or defensively? I think JJ Redick is a phenomenal basketball head. I think the knowledge he has for the game of basketball is very, very, very intriguing. I love listening to JJ Redick talk about basketball. I learned so much more myself by listening to JJ Redick talk about basketball. But again, it's that part where will you be able to get them to buy in? Will you be able to relate to the kids? And Rob Pelinka talked about that a little bit in the presser too, saying that they're trying to find ways to, the playbook, for lack of a better term, or like the plays and the system that they're trying to run. They want to get it so that the younger kids can, relate to it easier. So they want to get it on an app or get it on the phone or whatever it is, so it's easier for them to learn. I personally don't agree with that. I don't know if, I guess you could say I'm a little bit more old school, but because it's like, you're going to come in here, I'm going to teach you, and then you're going to go home and learn it. I don't care how you learn it, but you're going to go home and learn it so that when we come back next practice, you know what we're doing. So it's interesting. With JJ Redick and his press conference was very he had some interesting statements. But Kev, what was your reaction to that?
I mean, I don't have much to say about that conference, about that press conference, and that statement that he said. But I mean, because you pretty much already said what I was thinking about saying. I mean, we keep raving about how he has such a high IQ for the game, how he has so much knowledge for the game, but we haven't seen him coach, and we can't put him on a pedestal just yet, where we can't say he's this and all that when we haven't seen it yet. There's gonna be growing pains throughout the season with him being the coach, and LeBron's gonna be LeBron. He's gonna have a voice in the coaching staff, and he's gonna want to run things his way. And I feel like the signing of JJ is gonna allow him to do that, because him and JJ, they're buddies. I mean, they have a whole podcast together. So I mean, it's not like JJ is a stranger to LeBron. They know each other very well, and if LeBron says, "Hey, let me take over," I feel like JJ will allow LeBron to do that. I mean, It's just from what I see. I may be wrong. Throughout, I want to be proved wrong, and I want to see JJ succeed as a coach. But from what I've seen and from what I've seen from the past with LeBron, with any coaches that haven't proved it themselves yet, then I could see something like that. But I do want JJ to succeed as a coach, though.
And here's the biggest thing, and I was thinking about it this morning. What does JJ do? Will JJ be able to put LeBron in his place? Will he be able to put Anthony Davis in his place? When LeBron freaks out because JJ doesn't want to challenge a call and he calls him all these names and he's talking all this trash about him, how does JJ Redick react? When AD gets taken out of the game, when JJ takes AD out of the game, AD wants to go back in the game, and AD's trying to convince him, how does he react to that? That's what I really want to see. Again, I'm not worried about the basketball stuff. I'm worried about the personal man-to-man stuff. Coaching these men who make 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars a year. Will you be able to coach them? Will you make sure they are understanding what you're saying and comprehending what you're saying? So again, when LeBron has those freakouts, challenge the call, and then JJ says no, when he's having this freak out, you know what I'm talking about. I forget who they're playing, but LeBron touched the ball the call was against LeBron. The ref said that LeBron touched the ball and goes out of bounds, and he's freaking out. And he's freaking out at Darvin Ham to challenge the call, and he doesn't. How does JJ react to that? Because we all saw how Darvin Ham looked his hand into the pocket and was like, no, I'm not challenging the call. So again, JJ Redick, to things like that, how will he react? But speaking of that podcast, obviously, JJ Redick, of all people, LeBron James chose to do a podcast with JJ Redick, so you can see how close they were and how much LeBron, I wouldn't say admires, but respects JJ Redick in order to do podcasts with him. And JJ Redick was asked, has LeBron given you any advice for this coaching job?
He didn't provide any advice. LeBron and I did not talk about the Lakers job until Thursday afternoon, about 30 minutes after I was offered the job. And that was very intentional on both our parts. I knew I had an understanding that he did not want to be involved in this. And for me, I didn't want to go down the path of hypotheticals with someone that I consider a friend and someone that I have a great amount of respect for. So for us, it just came down to literally Thursday afternoon. And I talked to him for about 15, 20 minutes and got off the phone. That was it.
Let me be completely honest with you. This is all with all respect to JJ and LeBron. I don't believe that for a single second. There must have been some convincing. Again, for LeBron to do with a podcast, a weekly podcast, and he could choose anybody. He decided to do it with JJ Redick. There had to be some convincing, some conversation about, okay, you know what? We have an open head coach. Darvin Ham is gone. I love the way you talk about the game. I love the way you think about the game, and I love your knowledge of the game. There had to be some conversation saying, okay, if you do this, this, and that, we can get you whatever it was. I don't know what the conversation was. But there had to be some conversation longer than 15 or 20 minutes, like you said. That was like, okay, I would love for you to become the head coach. Let me go talk to Rob or whoever it is, Jeannie or whoever it is, and try and get you in. Do you want to do it? Now, last year he interviewed for the Toronto job, didn't get it. He was supposed to interview for the Charlotte job. And Dan Hurley, the Lakers went out and offered Dan Hurley the job before they even came back to JJ Redick. So again, I don't know if that's all that is necessarily true. But we may never know. We probably will never know. But Kev, let me stop yapping. What do you think about that?
I think LeBron did have something to do with it. I'm not sure how much of an impact he had on it. But, I mean, LeBron wanted someone that he knows and he's comfortable with. And I feel like bringing in JJ, it allows LeBron to be more free. And it allows LeBron to kind of still be a leader and, on the court and also have a say in the huddles as well. And I think I think LeBron probably did impact on the signing of JJ Redick. I mean, we both brought it up. I mean, they have a podcast together. And I mean, they talk about basketball and they talk about like they're connecting and they're building that connection. Those two people. So I mean, when you have someone that LeBron knows, on and off the court, I feel like it's gonna make it easier for him to play the game.
Yeah. So obviously, LeBron has had a bunch of nicknames. GM is one of those nicknames, and he's had a lot to do with a lot of players in his entire career, not just in LA, obviously in Cleveland, specifically in 2018 when he traded all those players, when we traded D Wade away and we traded all these people, and got back, got Jordan Clark and George Hill and all these different people. So again, I'm sure LeBron, as he should, I'm not saying that he shouldn't, but as he should, he's had an impact on a lot of decisions that have been made within the whatever organization he's a part of. As he should. He's, one of the greatest players that's ever touched a basketball, in my opinion, the second. But again, how much did he have to do with this? And I don't want any lie. Again, he could not be lying. He could be telling the truth, and I could be absolutely wrong. I just think LeBron had more to do with it than they are saying. Again, which is okay. But I just wish they would not be as
discreet
with it. I mean, I understand why they're discreet. Don't get me wrong. I understand why they're discreet. But again, just say no comment or something like that. Because I think he's lying, but to lie about it, I think it's LeBron James. Who's going to get mad at because LeBron James said, I want JJ Redick to be my next head coach? No, but then that falls back on LeBron because if it doesn't work out. So I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot to kind of go over and talk about, but that was his presser yesterday, and we'll see. I'm sure he'll be involved with Summer League coming up here in a few months, and things like that. And then obviously LeBron and AD will be off in Paris for the Olympics. So that'll be interesting. But did want to get into some NFL stuff. And I did want to start with this. Shout out to my guys, at my work, Arizona Sports. Kind of heard this talk. I kind of heard them bring this up, and this is actually how I found out. I didn't even know this sound existed, but a few days ago, Colin Cowherd, on his podcast. I mean, Kev, I don't know how you feel about Colin Cowherd. I can live with him, live without him. I mean, he's okay. At least in my opinion. It's not like I'm going to hang on to his every last word.
There's some takes where it looks like he knows what he's talking about, and then there's some takes where it just confuses me. It's kind of like Nick Wright. I mean, you watch Nick Wright, right? Yeah, it's kind of like that.
I can't stand Nick Wright though. I cannot stand Nick Wright. Oh my God, I cannot stand Nick Wright. Although we share the same love for Patrick Mahomes, I can't stand Nick Wright. Some of the takes he has are just wild. I mean, it's just sometimes I just think he does it for clicks, but I don't know. But this is a little longer one. Colin Cowherd on his podcast. I'm not even gonna describe it, but this is, and after you watch it, you're gonna see why it got me so heated, and like frustrated and irritated because of the ignorance almost. But this is, I think, 2 or 3 days ago. Here's Colin Cowherd.
I was thinking about this. Bruce Arians was commenting about Kyler Murray, and he was saying, he's still in the evaluation process. And I've always backed him because my takeaway is that Jesus, in a division that had Pete Carroll, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, he had Cliff Kingsbury and took him to the playoffs. It's like, and mostly pretty mediocre O-lines. And I'm like, are you guys, this is the best coaching division in football at the top with Pete and Shanny and McVay, and Kyle got him in there. Kyler did. But as I was reading that with Bruce Arians, he had real doubts on him. I mean, real doubts that, he's more legs than pocket. And he completes 67% of his throws. And I can't find anybody I ever ask about Kyler Murray in the league is like, no way, out. And I'm like, Jesus, he throws a beautiful ball. He's elusive as hell. He's a playmaker. He's accurate. People stuck with Justin Fields to the last game against Green Bay. People have bailed on Kyler, and he can frickin' play the position. I have a therapist friend, a lady, And she has said there's a little bit it's not an epidemic, but it is an issue with men who are gamers are bad for marriages. And this person has said she has seen it repeatedly.
Okay. Kev, if you don't mind, I'm going to take off. There's a bunch of things I don't like about that, about what he said. One, you're going off Bruce Arians. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Bruce Arians. I love what he did here with the Cardinals. I love what he did with Carson Palmer. And he kind of flipped this organization around on a complete 180. But, dude, you're going off of Bruce Arians. Never coached Kyler Murray a day. Not a day. So you can have all the questions you want. So you can go off Bruce Arians or whatever you want to. Again, who never coached Kyler Murray a single day in his life. And then earlier, it wasn't in the clip. Earlier, you want to talk about how you're smoking cigars and hanging out and having dinner with Steve Keim. Kevin, if you have an ex-girlfriend, and it doesn't end well, right? The relationship didn't end well. What are the chances you're going to talk very highly of that girl for the foreseeable future? Not very highly. So you're talking to Steve Keim. You're going off of what Steve Keim said because he got booted out because of his stupid decision. I was calling for Steve Keim's job in 2019 before he traded for D-Hop. When he drafted Andy Isabella and Hakeem Butler and all these people who did not work. Robert Nkemdiche, Brandon Williams, all these people that did not work out. I was calling for him because he can't draft. He made the one trade. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a great trade for D-Hop. It was a great trade. But again, you're going off of based off Steve Keim, who did not do a very good job in the past 3 years, and then got booted out because he was bad at his job. So yes, he's not going to be very happy, and he's going to talk down on Kyler. He drafted Josh Rosen. The next year, traded him and drafted Kyler Murray at number 1. First of all, there's a reason why you're drafting number 1 overall. Secondly, you just took that quarterback number 10 overall the previous year. So there's a reason why Steve Keim would talk bad about the Cardinals. And then number 2, people can change. People can mature. What doesn't make sense to me, and again, Steve Keim was involved in this, putting the homework clause in Kyler Murray's contract. Why would that be a good idea whatsoever? Because now it's public. Now it gets public. So now everybody's poo-pooing on your quarterback, your franchise guy, because you want to put that in there to make sure he studies, because going off of what other people say, and then now that looks bad on him. Because he wants to go, because when he's relaxing, he wants to play video games. You know who else plays video games? Kevin Durant. One of the best players ever. You know who else plays video games? Devin Booker. You know who else? LeBron.
Luka Doncic.
Anthony Davis was calling him in the top 1,000 Madden players in the world. And does he have a homework clause in his contract? Tyreek Hill also plays video games. Does he have a homework clause in his contract? So to use gaming as an excuse for why nobody likes Kyler is ridiculous. Have you talked to anybody in the organization currently? That's currently a part of the organization. I mean, he is everybody. You talk to everybody, and you talk to obviously. You know, I don't know if I can say. I don't know if I'll say I'm a part of the local media, but I know people who are, and I talk to people who are. When they talk about Kyler, he's the first one in and the last one out, and it's been like that since he's come off his ACL injury. And I told you, Kevin, when it first happened, this might be a blessing in disguise for Kyler Murray, his ACL, because it gave him a chance to mature and really appreciate him being in the NFL and him doing what he does at such a high level. Obviously, you see the talent, but now you see the mental game coming along with the talent, the leadership coming along with the talent. So for him to say that blindly, again, I say ignorance because it is. You're not talking to anybody currently a part of the organization. You're talking to an upset ex because the breakup didn't go his way. And then Michael Bidwell, the owner of the Cardinals, I am not a fan at all of him. Again, I've wanted him out for as long as I can speak. So, again, that is such an ignorant take by Colin Cowherd. And again, it's not like I have a problem with Colin Cowherd. Some of the things he says I don't agree with. Some of the things I do. But to say this, to blindly say this, without speaking to anybody currently in the organization, he said he's talking about guys on the NFL. They don't want him. Are they a part of the Arizona Cardinals? Are they a part of them? Kyler Murray's never played for another organization in his career. So why are you going based off what other people are saying outside the organization and an upset ex that didn't end off the breakup very well? That's what's confusing me. Go ahead, Kev. I had to go off on that for a while.
There isn't really much to say. I mean, you pretty much just went off on the whole thing.
I mean, because it just doesn't make any sense for him to say that. Obviously, he mentioned his talent. He is immensely talented. He's immensely talented. It's just when he puts it all together, and I think he is this year. He's opening up a lot more. He's working harder. He's making more of an effort to spend time with his teammates. And really get to know his teammates. So he's changing, he's evolving, he's maturing. So for him to say that and not talk to not only not talk to him, but and I'm talking about Kyler himself, but not to talk to anybody in the entire organization is kind of wild to me. It's kind of wild. And again, gaming there's a lot of people who game. Like I said, LeBron plays video games. Tyreek Hill plays video games. A lot of people, 60-70% of professional athletes play video games. When you go home, do you want to do something to rest? Some people watch a movie, hang out with the family, and some people play video games. Kyler Murray does not have a family in terms of a wife and kids. So yes, he's gonna go home and play the game. He's gonna play the game. That's what he enjoys doing. That's how he relaxes. Chad Ochocinco played video games his entire career. He was pretty good. So I think that was just an awful take and almost disrespectful. I almost want to lead to disrespectful take in terms of towards Kyler Murray. So that's how I feel about it. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I like to joke around with you about Kyler's double XP weekend.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop until he stops playing the game. Because I mean, for me, I kind of find it funny every time when the Cardinals lose or whenever he has a bad game. I always read the comments and I always see the criticism about he's just looking forward to that double XP weekend. I mean, he's not focused on the game. And for me, I know it's a meme. I know it's trolling around, but I find it kind of funny when they do something like that.
But even you mentioned the comments. The comments that was a YouTube video. The comments from that video were saying this is a terrible take. So and people saying so NFL or athletes just can't have fun anymore. Things like that. People are just poo-pooing on Colin Cowherd, as they should be. So I don't know. So that fired me up. But I saw this earlier. Some dark horse NFL MVP candidates, right? Some dark horse NFL MVP candidates. I want to get into this for a few minutes, and then I want to get into some NBA draft stuff. But number one on that list, Detroit Lions quarterback Jared Goff. What do you think?
I honestly could see it. And the reason why is he led them to the NFC Championship last year. I mean, they were up at half. I mean, they looked like they were going to go to the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I feel like this team only got better in this offseason. So I feel like if this team is the best team in the NFC, I'm talking about just NFC in general, not even their own division, but in their own conference, and they make it to the Super Bowl, I feel like he puts up a stat line of 40 touchdowns and 4,000 plus passing yards, 4,500 yards. I mean, being the top of the NFC, I could see it happening.
I'm with you. I agree with you. I can absolutely see it happening. From, again, not only his evolution, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to get better. Sam Laporta is going to get better. Jamison Williams is going to get better. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get better. So I can absolutely see it happening, but the only thing that I have with Jared Goff is his ability to take care of the football. You cannot turn the ball over. You cannot, especially as many times as he has the past few years. You cannot turn the ball over. If he can keep those turnovers to a very few, if he can stay under
10,
8 or 9 interception, 10 maybe. I was gonna say maybe 8 or 9. And then, like you said, throw 35, 40, 45 touchdowns, and then throw for 44, 45, 4,600 yards. I think, and then also win 12, 13 games. I think he has a very good chance to go out and win MVP. Again, that team is very good. That team is very good. There's a reason why both you and I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. So that's a very good football team. And Jared Goff had a very good year last year. And I think he can have an even better year this year. But again, he has to limit the turnovers. He has to. If he turns the ball over too much, he will not even sniff MVP. He just won't. But he has to be able to limit the turnovers and, again, really thrive in this offense. Again, 35, 45, 40, 45 touchdowns, 4,500 yards. That's what wins you MVPs. But, again, with guys like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, with guys like that in the league, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, so you really have to outshine them. While we're on the topic, we're just talking about him. Kyler Murray is on this list. Kyler Murray, he said forget the writer of this, article, Judy Batista, senior NFL writer. She says he's healthy and thinks he's had one of the best off seasons of his career, and he's building off a very strong finish to 2023. Murray returned from his ACL injury in Week 10 last season, but he and the Cardinals' offense really took off in the final four games of the campaign. He completed 70.3% of his passes for 935 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So, can you see Kyler Murray possibly making a push for that MVP?
I could also see that happening because we've seen flashes of it in 2021 or 2020 or 2021. I mean, we've seen them go out. They were what 7-0 or 7-1 or something like that in that first couple of games in the halfway through the season. I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen what he could do. All right, Jess.
Yeah, he saw it, bro. Giannis won't even win another NBA MVP.
But
Trash.
I could see it happening. The only thing that could hold him back, and I feel like a lot of the players that won MVP is the overall team success.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Cardinals are just a couple of years away from contending. I don't think they're going to be contending this year, in my opinion. And so I feel like that would have a factor of him winning MVP. Do I think he can put the numbers as an MVP candidate? I could see him throwing like 30, 35 and like rushing for like close to like 10 touchdowns, putting up about 4,000 passing yards, a little under 4,000, and like about 600, 700 rushing yards. I could see something like that, but it's just the overall team success. And if they have what it takes to win over 10 games, I would say no. But I think it's just the overall success as a team is what is going to determine on the MVP votes.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kyler Murray can absolutely take off this year, though. I think he can have a great year. I think he can pass for I think he can throw for over 3,500 yards. I think he can throw for 27, 28 touchdowns. I think he can rush for another 9 or 10. And I think he can rush for 700, 800 yards. Just because of the run game. The biggest reason I think Kyler Murray can take off this year is because of the effectiveness of the run game that the Cardinals will have this year. And the new system. Not necessarily new, but the now full year of training camp, offseason, OTAs, things like that Kyler is able to experience the offense in. Like I said, the most efficient offense in the NFL last year in the last 4 games of the season was the Arizona Cardinals. And that was because of the run game. James Conner was running the heck out of the ball. Michael Carter Jr., we picked him up off waivers, and he was running the ball well. This year we go out the draft and bring in Trey Benson out of FSU. He's a speed back. He can move. So I think he can have a fantastic year. In fact, I think he can be a top 10 quarterback this year. Again, with the weapons, obviously you go out and you drafted Marvin Harrison Jr. number 4. Michael Wilson is going to get better, and if he stays healthy, he can have an impact. I believe you have a top 6, 7 tight end in Trey McBride. And then the offensive line also got better. You go out and you draft some pieces, you bring in a few pieces. Paris Johnson goes to left tackle. You still have you brought back Will Hernandez. So the offensive line is still intact. So I think if the Cardinals stay healthy, I think Kyler Murray can have a very, very good year. A very good year. I just don't know if we'll be to the MVP level. Like I said, the Lamar Jacksons of the world, the Patrick Mahomes of the world, Josh Allen's, guys like that. Next one and last one, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's on this list. Do you think Tyreek Hill could be a dark horse for MVP this year?
He was in conversation last year along with CMC. Just non-quarterbacks it's going to be hard for them to win MVP because when's the last time a player that wasn't a quarterback won MVP, Jamal? Because I can't think of the top of my head.
Adrian Peterson.
And how long has that been? Like
15 years or 13 or 14 years, I think. Over
10 years. So, and I mean, I bet you, you probably would have to look it up, but I bet you the previous guy that won MVP before AP as a non-quarterback, it's been a while since that too.
Yeah.
So last year was one of the years where CMC had a good chance to winning MVP, especially with how good the Niners are doing and the numbers that he was putting up. That was the best option as a non-quarterback to win MVP, and he didn't win it. There were votes that had Brock Purdy over him in votes, and I don't think he deserved any MVP conversations over CMC. But it's a quarterback league for MVP. It's going to be hard to win MVP as a receiver because Cooper Kupp looked unstoppable. He looked, the stats he was putting up in 2021. And he had a strong case, in my opinion, to win MVP, but he didn't. So it's going to be hard for someone to win MVP that isn't a quarterback. And because we've seen what Tyreek did last year. He had like games where he was going for 200 yards. He looked like the best receiver, especially with JJ Redick not playing last year. And so even though I do think it could be possible, but I just think it's not a good chance of him winning, especially with the league of quarterbacks.
Well, I just want to put this on the screen so we can have a good laugh. Oh man, I just thought that was funny. Because the Eagles still have Jalen Hurts at quarterback, so
Nick Sirianni.
So so we'll just I just want to throw that out there, again, shout out to Jess, but Eagles aren't winning anything. But I think in terms of Tyreek Hill being a dark horse for the MVP, like you said, it's hard for a non-quarterback to win the MVP. It is ridiculously hard for a non-quarterback to win the MVP. And again, when you have the quarterbacks that you have today, when you have Patrick Mahomes, when you have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, CJ Stroud, Tua, you throw Tua in there, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, when you have those guys in the league, it's hard to not be a quarterback and win the MVP. But I'll tell you what, if he breaks Calvin Johnson's record, if he gets 2,000 yards, it'll be damn hard not to give him that MVP award. It'll be tough to not give him that MVP award. If he breaks it, I think he'll win it. If he breaks 2,000, I think he'll win the MVP. But if he doesn't, it's gonna be. I can't see him winning it. I think that's the only case in which he.
But that also determines on where the Dolphins are when it comes to the overall record too. Because if they're not winning the AFC East and they're not a top 3, top 2 team in the AFC, it's gonna be hard for him to even be in the conversation. If the team doesn't have as much success.
I think that success comes along with the team. I think the more success he has, the more success the team has. Because if he's thriving. Right, he's thriving. Every year he's had a very good year. The Dolphins have made the playoffs, and then I think Miami will win the East again. I think Miami will win the AFC East again.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you. I think Miami.
I don't think You don't think the Jets have a good chance of
No.
winning that division?
No. Until Aaron Rodgers wants to show up to things that he's supposed to be at, I have no confidence in the Jets.
Because on
I have
paper,
zero confidence.
I have them slightly better than the Dolphins.
I think they're all around better. I think obviously the wide receivers are better.
I think defensively,
the
Jets have the upper hand over the Dolphins defensively.
The only reason why I would say that is because Jalen Phillips is hurt. Only reason why I'd say that. Because obviously losing Christian Wilkins was huge. Jalen Phillips was a young pass rusher who unfortunately tore his Achilles, but he's a young pass rusher who is really coming up. They have a decent front seven. I love Jerome Baker. They still have Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. Javon Holland is another young safety in the secondary that's a very good player. So I think, defensively, I'll give the slight edge to them, to the Jets. Obviously, their secondary is ridiculous. They have DJ Reed. They have Sauce Gardner. I love Quentin Williams up front. He's such a dominant player. CJ Mosley at the mic. So I love, the Jets defense is very good. But until Aaron Rodgers shows me that he wants to show up and, be a part of the team, I'm not putting any money on the Jets. I'm not putting any money. I'm done with the Jets because I'm done with Aaron Rodgers. I'm tired of him. I'm tired of this guy. So I think Miami's going to win the AFC East again this year. And then, like I said, the success that comes along with Tyreek, I think, is the success that success goes along with the Dolphins. So, but again, if he breaks the record, if he breaks 2K, he will win the MVP. I'm calling it right now. If he breaks 2,000 yards, he will win the MVP.
He'll also be the cover of Madden as well.
Oh, yeah, front and center. But he may not have success after that. Madden curse or whatever it is.
You want to bring up Jesse's question?
Huh? Oh, no, I didn't even see it. Oh, that's tough, man. The Ravens. What are your thoughts on the Ravens? The Ravens, I'll tell you what. Derrick Henry is a huge addition. Derrick Henry is a humongous addition. Can Lamar Jackson, because at the end of the day, you can run the ball. Can Lamar Jackson make the throws that you absolutely need to have in the most crucial moments, especially in the playoffs? We have not seen it so far. We saw a little bit of it against Houston. A little bit. But even then, they kind of squeaked out of that game. But against teams like the Chiefs, are you able to make those plays that you need to make in order for your team to win the game? And I just haven't seen that so far. So again, I'm not picking Baltimore to get anywhere outside of the AFC Championship. But again, if he proves me wrong, he proves me wrong. But I'm just going off of what I've seen so far.
We had a segment about who's the most pressured and who's on the hot seat. I brought up Lamar Jackson in for a good reason. Yeah. I had D'Lo look up the record. He's 2-4 in the playoffs. Look, whatever you do in the regular season, big props to you winning 2 MVPs. But if that doesn't translate into playoff success, that's gonna be it's gonna fall on the quarterback. I mean, it's a team success and a team failure type of league, but it all goes down on how the quarterback play is, and if he doesn't, perform well, and if he just underperforms, it's not going to translate well into what he's able to do. Especially when you have a talented defense, you're always going to be in games. The best defense last year, in the league, and when you did bring it up, when you hold Mahomes to only 17 points.
Yeah, gotta win that game.
You gotta win the game. All you gotta do is put up 3 touchdowns to win the game, and if you can't do that, then you can only do so little. Look, I understand you didn't have Mark Andrews last year due to injury, but you're getting him back this year. You're bringing in Derrick Henry. Zay Flowers is going to be on his sophomore season. There should be no excuse on why you can't run him back and go back to the AFC Championship. In my opinion, I think the Bengals might actually get the slight edge over them in that division, but I could honestly see the Ravens taking that division as well this year. My thoughts on the Ravens are they're good enough to make it to the AFC Championship, but are they good enough to make it to the Super Bowl? I'm not too sure because I think last year was the best opportunity, the best chance to go to the Super Bowl, and it didn't work out for them.
It didn't, and it hasn't, and I put that on Lamar Jackson because he's the quarterback of that team. So when he loses, he gets the majority of the credit or the majority of the blame. When he wins, he gets a majority of the credit. And that's how it's always been in the NFL. That's how it always will be. And then again, you mentioned the weapons. He's coming back with. He has Mark Andrews coming back. He has Zay Flowers coming back, even better. He has. I think Rashad Bateman can be a very good player. I think he's getting better. And then obviously you bring in Derrick Henry.
Mark Henry is great.
But you bring in Derrick Henry, who's been one of the best running backs in the last decade.
Mark Henry is wild.
So, I mean, it's oh man, I hope Lamar Jackson proves me wrong. I really do. Well, actually, I kind of don't because obviously I'm a Mahomes fan. So. I hope again. If he does, he does. But if he doesn't, I told you so. So that's when it comes to the Ravens. He just has to show up. He has to show up. But before we close out the show, I did want to. Jesse brought up Paul George. We talked a little bit about Paul George last week, and I think his best option is to leave. I think his best option in terms of career, in terms of his NBA career, is to leave the Clippers. But in terms of maybe his personal life and his family and things like that, he is from LA, and he obviously has all of his family in LA. He has his podcast in LA. He has everything set up in LA. So personally, it would be the best move for him to stay. But if he wants to go out and win a championship, and contend for a championship, not just say he wants to play but contend and actually have a real chance at going out and winning an NBA championship, he needs to leave the Clippers.
How did you feel about Paul George on the Lakers?
I don't think it'd be a good fit. I don't think it'd be a good fit.
I'm naming teams off of California teams. How about the Kings?
See, that'd be interesting. I think Paul George would be a fantastic fit in Sacramento. I think he'd be a great fit in Sacramento. I think that gives you that third star with experience. It gives you that third star with experience. You have De'Aaron Fox, who, again, played in the playoffs last year, took Golden State to 7, ended up losing in 7 games. Steph Curry obviously having that 50-point game in Game 7 is just ridiculous. And then you put him alongside a Sabonis, a walking triple-double. Right? 2 guys who are unselfish. You put Paul George in the middle of that, a guy with some experience, a guy with tenure, a guy who's been there and done that. The only thing he hasn't done is got to the NBA Finals. So that's a destination we haven't talked about yet. But I think Sacramento would be a very, very, very interesting spot for Paul George.
Jesse did say what team would be a good fit in your opinion.
Mm-hmm. I really like Sacramento. I'm glad you brought that up. I really like Sacramento.
I like Sacramento as well. But in my opinion, there's 3 teams. One of those teams, it probably won't happen. Is the Dallas Mavericks. The cap space and just how much money they have. I don't think they can bring in someone like Paul George. So you take away that team. I got 3 other teams. I got the Magic, who I feel like could be a very interesting kind of marriage, especially if Paul George becomes that 1-2 punch with Paolo Banchero. And I just feel like that could be a good fit. But what if that's the missing piece to that team? Another team is the Heat. I feel like if they bring back Jimmy, they keep Bam. And then if they're able to keep Harrell and all of them, if you have a wing duo of Butler and George, that could be another interesting duo. What they offer on the defensive side of the ball. Paul George. I think he can bring that type of culture to Miami. I feel like it would be an interesting lineup. And the last team is the Sixers, which you were also saying it could happen, and it's a good chance of it happening with him with Maxi and Embiid. I feel like it'd be a good team for him to go to.
Miami is an interesting one that you mentioned. Obviously, we've heard a lot of talk about Philly, and obviously what Joel Embiid kind of did on NBA Countdown with Paul George there. Miami's an interesting one. I just don't think that'd be about because, and I bring it back to the Dallas situation, the Maverick situation, because they're paying so many people. They're paying Jimmy, and who in fact is also coming up. His contract is coming up, and he's going to want a deal. They're paying Bam, right, and then they're also paying Tyler Hero. I don't know if they'd be able to afford Paul George. And even if you are, you'd be in a situation a lot like the Suns are in right now. Can't really go out and get anybody off the bench. Can't really go out and add any key role players. So I'm not sure about that one. Again, the Sixers we've talked about a lot, especially on this show, and then obviously nationally. The Sixers have been talked about. But in terms of, I'm really glad you brought up Sacramento. That is a place we have not talked about.
What about the Magic?
The Magic, I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan of PG going to the Magic in terms of PG's case, because you go to a young Magic team. Say the Magic signed Paul George. You're not contending in the East. I'm just going to put it straight forward. You are not contending in the East. Paulo Banchero is a very good player. He has not reached his prime yet. I don't think he's at the very best player he could possibly be, and that's what the Magic need in order for them to even think about contending for a championship. Paul George, by the time Paulo Banchero was actually at his peak, at his prime, will be too old to really have an impact that he can have right now. And then also the Magic don't really have another star. I think Paul George needs to go somewhere where he has two other guys that he can kind of work around. Like you said, like we just talked about, Sacramento has De'Aaron Fox, Sabonis. Philly has Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and all these other places. And all these other places, Paul George is not that guy anymore. He's just not that guy anymore. He's not that guy to carry an Indiana Pacers team by himself to 6 or 7 games, whatever it was, against a prime LeBron James and that Miami Heat team. He's just not. So he needs other guys to kind of carry the other load that needs to be brought along with him. And he just hasn't, and he's not that guy anymore. So I think he needs at least 2 other players who can really go out and make a difference. That's what I think about that. And then Jesse said, I think Greece beats the USA. I think USA is going to beat everybody by 40 at least. But that team is ridiculous. Kev, go ahead.
I talked to our dear friend Gavin, who is a Clippers fan. And I asked him, how would you feel about the Cavs if they were to bring in Paul George? And before you give me your input, I didn't say anything. It was actually him that said this. He said if they were able to bring in Paul George, they could contend in the East. So I just want to see what you would think about what he said and how Paul George would fit with the Cavs.
If that were to happen, the window would be very small. Very small. Because, and I would say 1, maybe 2 years. 1, maybe 2 years. The only reason why I say that is because Evan Mobley hasn't got paid, and Jared Allen's going to need a new contract. And so did Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's already in contract talks about getting a new one, right? And there's no way you keep Darius Garland, Mobley, and Allen, and then bring in Paul George. If you do, that's the biggest reason why I'm saying the window's 1, maybe 2 years. Because you're going to fly. You are going to fly. You're going to Usain Bolt past that second apron. And so you're going to have a great starting lineup. who are you going to bring in off the bench? Because you can't pay Karis LeVert. Karis LeVert is a mid-level exception player. You bring in Paul George and you're also paying all these other guys. Not going to happen. So, I mean, the best case scenario for them, if they were to bring in Paul George, were to be, again, have at least 2 of them on the court at all times. Or, again, go out and maybe find some vet minimum guys that can help you out. The Suns were able to bring in Eric Gordon last year. He was okay, wasn't great. But those are the type of guys that you would have to try and find. Like I said, you're not going to be able to bring in like these great bench players, the Karis LeVerts and the Malik Monks, the Nas Reeds, the Tyler Heroes. I mean, maybe the Peyton Pritchard.
What if you slide Garland back to the bench as a 6-man come off the bench?
Who are you going to start?
It's probably going to be Mitchell, either between Okoro and Strus, George, Mobley, and Allen.
Even that's another one. Strus is also getting paid a lot of money. A lot of money, probably more than he should be making. But in order to bring in Paul George, you'd have to get rid of Garland or Mitchell. You'd have to.
It's probably going to be Garland, depending on the reason why we're bringing Paul George is to contend and get that title. It would be probably Garland giving up, especially if you want to win now. I think it would be Mitchell as the win now candidate instead of Darius Garland.
And I agree. But the only thing is Donovan Mitchell, and again, I know I'm bringing up a lot of Sun stuff, but I saw Devin Booker try and play point guard this season. Again, you look at his stats, right? He averaged 27. And then I think he averaged like 7 or 8 assists. So he had a good year. He made second team All NBA, or third team, whatever. He made All NBA.
Is TJ McConnell's contract up?
No.
I was about to say, but what if we try to get a deal for McConnell?
Even McConnell is going to be making 13, 14, 15 million dollars a year. And so that is even higher than the mid-level exception. So again, it's and I love TJ McConnell. I love TJ McConnell and what he brings to a basketball team, especially a contender. But yeah, with Donovan Mitchell, you're gonna need a true point guard. You're at least to bring off the bench. You're going to need a true. That's why I get one this year. I don't know who it is. It may be like, it might maybe Tyler Kolek, the rookie out of Marquette, or they might bring in a free agent. So, but you need a one. You need a point guard for Donovan Mitchell to be able to play at the highest level he could possibly play at. But that is going to conclude today's show. I hope you all enjoyed. If you're watching after the stream, or if you're watching, I think Jesse's watching right now. So Jesse, I hope you enjoyed that. But that's going to close it out today, man. We're back tomorrow. NBA draft is coming up tomorrow. We're definitely going to get into that a lot tomorrow. No. What? But it's gonna close it out, man. We'll see you tomorrow again, same time, 10 a.m. Again, look at we might do a NBA draft show. We might. I don't know for sure yet. During the draft, I don't know for sure. We might. But Jesse says Happy Pride Month. Happy Pride Month. So Happy Pride Month to Jesse especially. I know he supports the LGBTQ community very much. So Happy Pride Month to Jesse. But that's gonna close it out. For Kev, for yours truly. We'll see you tomorrow. NBA draft coverage. See y'all tomorrow. Deuce.